All right, let's bring in Teddy Covers right now. Teddy, my man, coming to us live from Las Vegas. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Jimmy. How about yourself, man? You ready?
Oh.
You see that college hoops card for today? Hello. Welcome to college basketball season. We have tip-off in 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
What's that? Is that Baylor in Central Arkansas or something?
Yeah, it's popping off right now. They were asking about that spot, and I've not broken it down. Do you have any feel on this spot, Central Arkansas, Baylor?
None whatsoever. Let me tell you what I do for college hoops, because I know that people are expecting a lot of college hoops information out of me, and they'll get it, but not yet. Not day one. One thing that happened this time of year is insane. All right, I consider November to be the moral equivalent of finals week. You know, where you finish one thing, you move on to the next. And that's the way this month is. And it's okay. We prep for it. We're rested and ready. We're good to go. But we're not going to try to build Rome in a day when it comes to college basketball. And being that the attention has been on college football, NFL, NBA, you're working NHL, what we do in a college basketball season, we ease in. We just ease into it. We're paying attention to the results. I'm not looking. And the people that focus exclusively on college hoops, now's the time to clean up. Absolutely. There will be mispriced teams. But in order to do that, you have to devote your life to college hoops, which is something that I can't do right now. So what I do, my whole approach to college basketball is watch, listen, learn. Thanksgiving comes, we start going nuts because we'll have a whole bunch of teams that'll be mispriced off of those Thanksgiving tournaments. And we come back from Thanksgiving and we start making money in college hoops. We expect to make money right away. The first couple of weeks, I'll do my best to give you guys whatever info I have. But in terms of my plays, few to none. When something stands out, if someone's like, hey, I notice a team I want to ride, I notice a total trend I'm going on, that'll be something I'll look at the first 3 weeks of the season. Other than that, we really look post-Thanksgiving. I love December. I love December college hoops because the markets overreact to everything, and there's lots of money to be made betting against some of those overreactions. So short term, I got very little for you in college hoops. What I have, of course, we got it. You know, we got the blue ribbon guide. We got all the other stuff. We got the VSIN guide. We have all the guides that we need to have. But going through them and getting the information up here doesn't happen overnight. Not trying to build a Rome in a day when it comes to college basketball. So that's short story long. Baylor, Central Arkansas, and all of today's card. I got nothing. Best of luck. I'll do the best I can with any questions you have. But when it comes to college hoops, my focus isn't there yet. It will be, but it's not there yet.
Yeah, it's so important to bite off what you can chew and not stretch yourself in a spot where you don't have enough study done to make moves, and when you say things, people follow. And so I completely understand that and look forward to everything that you offer us at all times. And we have so much on our plate right now. We have Max Smart hammering this whole basketball card on the Late Show too, so we're covered.
Sweet.
And can't wait till you jump in college basketball. But let's get into NBA first, Teddy. Because a lot of people are talking about this huge. There's two huge games in college basketball today. We have Kansas, Duke, and then of course we have the Michigan State game, Michigan State, Kentucky. Do you have any feel at all on these top teams?
I have my powering numbers for those two games, absolutely. My powering number for Kansas Duke is a pick'em, which says there's value on Duke at the current price at plus 2.5. My number on Michigan State Kentucky came 4.5. So that line I thought opened really short. We've seen a fair bit of Sparty money. I don't know that I would want to lay 3, even though my number's 4.5. It's not a game where I'm comfortable asking someone to win by 2 possessions. I mean, both these games have the real potential to come down to the last bucket. So in general, I'd rather be taking points than laying them in this one. And I mean, the 2.5 with Dukes might be attractive. That might be one to get to the window with, especially if I see a 3 in that game.
That's great. That's just a nice lead in for our Late Show. Thank you for that and that insight there. Let's move on to NBA. Teddy, 3-0 for me last night. Now 13-6 on the year, 35% ROI, and you've got to enjoy the victories because the losses hurt so much. So that felt great. I gave another unit back in NFL last night. Cowboys first half team total over. But let's focus on the good. And I love my card right now in NBA, but I do want to hear what you have to say about it. I've made 2 moves on this NBA card and 2 plus lines. I'm on the Hornets at home at plus 140. Pacers playing out of their mind with all these injuries. I think they come back down to earth against a hungry Hornets team. And then I'm on the Magic at plus 130. I think they see this as a chance to get their first road win. 2 plus lines, money line spots for me in this card. How are you handling NBA today?
So I am with you on one of your 2 plays and against you on the other, and I only have 2 plays in the NBA tonight. So I want to find this quote. It was a great quote from Chris Paul that speaks volumes about why we're looking at the Orlando side today. Give me just 1 second to pull that quote up, because it's one of these quotes that stood out to me, and I circled it, and I'm like, this is something you want to remember, all right? Because Chris Paul was talking about how they won over New Orleans over the weekend. Quote, this is actually a good team. This is Chris Paul's quote. This is actually a good team for us to play against because it gets us playing faster. With the young guys we've got and the athleticism, if we play fast like this night in and night out, we'll give ourselves a better chance. What's Orlando going to do? Not play fast. Every possession is going to be a half-court possession. They're not going to give up anything in transition, and OKC is going to have to play at a pace that they don't like to play at. So I'm with you on Orlando 100%. Indiana, Charlotte, I'm not. And this comes back to a little bit of what we talked about yesterday, where you and I have slightly different approaches in the NBA. You're talking about matchups, and I'm talking about teams. And I fully understand your approach. And in college hoops, I use that approach. In college football, I'm certainly interested in matchups. In NBA, it's not something that I'm focused on at all. I'm focused on spots, and I'm focused on teams. There's 3 things I focus on. I'm focusing on spots. I'm focusing on under-the-radar injuries that don't affect the point spread. And I'm definitely looking, in general, my number 1 philosophy of NBA is find teams that are undervalued, find teams that are overvalued, and ride them, either betting on or against them for extended stretches. You know, Phoenix has been a pretty good undervalued team so far this season. You know, the Rockets have been a pretty good overvalued team so far this season, as examples of that. So when it comes to Indiana, Charlotte, I'm not worried about the Pacers' front court injuries. They've been fine, despite the problems they have. What I love about this is the spot. Here's Charlotte, Charlotte's not a good team. You know, Indiana's a playoff contender. Charlotte isn't. They're coming home fat and happy off a successful road trip. I don't see Charlotte bringing their A game tonight. And if they do, I'll get beat. But the Pacers were a team that I had a buy sign on coming into the campaign. They had some early season struggles. They figured it out over the last 3 games. They're getting really nice production off the bench. So I think Indiana's the class in that game. I had no hesitation. I laid 2.5 with the Pacers. That line's already up to 3.5 right now. It's still the only way I would look in that one. So I'm hoping you split tonight, Jimmy. I'm with you on one. I'm against you on the other.
It's actually one of my favorite situations in capping is when you have 2 games in a sport on a card with both plus lines. And if you go 50-50, you're in the world of profit. My thinking here is the same reason why I faded the Timberwolves yesterday. And it was similar. This was not a spot where the Bucks, it was not a great spot for the Bucks. I just don't believe in these subs, these guys off the bench to have continued excellence. And maybe excellence isn't the right word, or to continue playing well. And Badadzi and TJ Leaf, I think, are going to come crashing down to earth in Charlotte tonight. And I just don't think there will be continued success with these guys like Turner and Sabonis out of the lineup. I get your breakdown very, very much. And the Pacers, starting the year 0-3, gave them a ton of value on their 3-game winning streak. We have a question about this game from the chat. Ronnie Christie says, Jimmy, does Mr. Covers have a look on the Pacers-Hornets game total? Do you have a feeling on pace? I've got NCAA basketball up here right now, so let me move over to NBA quickly and find out if what this number is. But do you have a look on this total or a feel on expected pace?
I really don't. The total came right where I thought it was going to. We're sitting at, 212, 211.5. I think my number came 211. So from a base starting standpoint, I didn't have any take on the total. I'm looking for a bigger differential. And these aren't, again, with totals especially, more than as much as any other factor. I'm absolutely looking to ride streaks. And it's not like either of these two teams are on a big streak right now coming to the camp. The one total that stood out yesterday to me was New Orleans over. And New Orleans is flying over the total. It did it again. The line moved 8 points last night, and it still flew over the total by double digits. Those are the type of streaks I'm really looking for in totals, where the markets are just off, and you get two up-tempo teams or two slow-down teams, and you can really take advantage. I'm not sensing that for this game. It's not a game not a total that I had any opinion on whatsoever.
Two spots I have to talk to you about on this NBA card, and that's the Lakers at the Bulls here. A lot of guys in the chat backing the Lakers, and at -7, I'm just uncomfortable about them, caring about this game against the Bulls. I know they've won 5 straight. LeBron leading the league in assists is very special. This is a good basketball team, very good basketball team. But do they care here in Chicago against a team that's 2-5? I'm hesitant to pull the trigger on the Lakers, and I notice it's not on your card. Lakers, Bulls, Teddy.
Oh, if I was going to play it, I would only play the Bulls plus. Chicago's been a home road dichotomy team. They have not impressed me in hostile environments, and especially with their execution down the stretch. They've looked like a very young team closing out games on the road. At home, again, against a marquee team like the Lakers, with LeBron coming to town and Anthony Davis talking about maybe playing in Chicago someday and all that kind of stuff. I don't want the Lakers in this spot. I had an opportunity to talk with one of the odds makers from Caesars Sportsbook here in Vegas yesterday. And we're talking about NBA, early season NBA. And the one thing he said is, we have more liability on the Lakers any given night than any other team in the league. It's not even close. Lakers are our biggest liability in every way. So you're seeing shading towards LA. And this line's been bet up and bet up again. And now you're sitting at laying 7 with the Lakers. I'm not going to do it. It'd be Bulls or pass for me. I'm not playing it. But there's no way I want to lay this spot with LA tonight. I think the price is too high.
Oh, that gives me an enormous amount of peace. Thank you for that breakdown. I needed to hear that. And then on the Nuggets here, I do not want to get in the way of the Heat, but I just feel like this is a buy low time on the Nuggets. Heat starting their road trip. After that, they just destroy the Rockets. To me, Nuggets at 4.5. And what's holding me off is I'm afraid to get in the way of this Miami Heat team. Why are you not on the Nuggets at 4.5 at home?
Oh, it's funny because the only reason I didn't take the Heat in this game is because they got off to that 46-14 start the other day, and I was literally sitting here like, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? I'm all right, I'll leave it alone. It's weekend, and of course, as easy as it gets, that was a pound your head against the desk type of moment. Miami's bet on all the way, all right, and I'm not convinced that the Nuggets' problems are solved just because they got one win in Orlando. I'm not laying points with Denver right now. I didn't like the quotes from Malone. I didn't like the way the team responded to the quotes from Malone. Now they're coming back off the road trip against a red-hot Heat team that's been an undervalued commodity from day one this season. Miami's not taking prisoners. So I didn't take the Heat because when you have a team that shoots, and has a ridiculous game, you just don't take them the next game. I cashed the Wizards last night, not the Wizards game against the T-Wolves after they had that ridiculous game against Houston. For example, Houston lost their next game after they shot that ridiculous percentage. So when you have the teams that just make every shot one game, it's not usually a bet-on spot the next game. But Miami is a bet-on team. Denver is not. And that's the way I would look in a game like this one. You didn't bring up the one that came closest to almost making my card. That's, of course, Spurs-Hawks, if you want to talk that.
I do, and I just historically, and I shouldn't say historically, I say the last couple of years, this new look Spurs team, they just are trash on the road, and I don't want to have a vividness bias get in the way of this spot. We now know an hour ago Jason Collins suspended for 25 games for PEDs. I'm not entirely sure how the Hawks are going to handle that in the locker room. Trae Young will be coming back. I just don't like taking the Spurs and to cover more than 5 points on the road, and that's what's holding me off at this point. What's your move, or what were you very close to doing?
I was very close to taking the Spurs, and then the Collins suspension was announced, and the line skyrocketed. The line I was 4. Yeah, I'll lay 4, and Trae Young coming back tonight. And just as the markets always get the first game without the star players wrong, They get the first game with the star player back in the lineup wrong, especially when it's a point guard, and especially when he's going to go hold the ball. And so as the money was trickling in on Atlanta, I'm like, San Antonio's cheap, and they're not cheap anymore. So that was the issue. All that said, Spurs off a loss. I think there's some bet on potential in that situation in general. And again, that first game with the star back for Atlanta is not one that I was all excited about taking the price with. And that's a Hawks team. They're missing a lot of key pieces. Herter's not right yet. Young, if he comes back, will likely to be on some type of a minutes restriction. The Collins injury, and on down the line for Atlanta. They're not the team they thought they were going to be just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they are. They did have 4 days off, so they are healthy. It's too bad this suspension coming at the wrong time, but they are healthier than they've been. Where they're not on the injury report right now. And
he's not on the injury report, but his minutes. He's playing like 15 minutes a game, 20 minutes a game. They're really keeping his minutes down.
Yeah.
Let me check that.
Yeah, well, he missed the whole preseason. So, no, you're absolutely right on that. Russell Gordy's saying Murray ball and take the Spurs. Man, I'm so happy to see the Wanta back in the lineup. Okay, that's great. I love it. I'm going to stick with where I am in this NBA card. I really like these 2+ money spots. And as I have said, this is a favorable spot for me when I can take two teams and hit 50-50 and get to profit. We're sitting with a 35% ROI right now, and I'm just loving the association. Okay, there we go. Okay, Teddy, we're going to move over to college football, and we have 2 games on tonight's card. Let's start with Kent State, Toledo. Toledo opening up at -7.5, now down to 7. This total opened up at 62. Pinnacle has moved it to 62.5. Kent State, Toledo, Teddy. How are you going to bang this one out?
I'm not touching it. These are 2 teams. I don't trust either one of these teams. Let me make it real clear. With that, Kent State's wins have come against Akron, Bowling Green, and FCS. The absolute bottom feeders. I do not want to ask them to hang around with a team that has shown some level of explosiveness. The defense is not forcing a whole lot of turnovers. It's an offense that is by and large pedestrian. It's not a Kent State team I'm excited about. So I'm looking at Toledo or passing. The Glass Bowl can be a nasty place to play for a TV game, a weeknight TV game. But ask me how many games Toledo's won this year by more than a touchdown, and you'll find one. That came back in week 2 against an FCS foe. They haven't beaten anyone by this margin, which definitely concerns me here. And the offense is turning the ball over every week. Toledo's hasn't. Last time Toledo won the turnover battle was that week 2 game against Murray State, the only game that they won by more than a touchdown all year. They lost turnover battle each of their last 5 contests. And they've won some of those games. But when you have an offense that's turning the ball over and a defense that's not creating turnovers, that, week in, week out, those aren't necessarily the teams I want to lay a touchdown with. Easy pass for me on this one. I was much closer to getting involved. We talked about the second game a little bit yesterday. I haven't bet it yet, but I may well do it before we get before this day is through, before this game kicks off. So the second MAC game of the 2 is the one I'm more interested in betting.
Well, let's talk about that. And if you could also touch on the total. Ronnie Christie saying, what is Teddy's insight on the Western Michigan versus Ball State over the 64.5? It's actually 64 across the board. I don't see a hook on any of these books. So Ball State, Western Michigan, side and total, how would you hammer this? And will you get to the window?
So total is the one. Remember, yeah, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I'm debating between Western Michigan and over, Western Michigan and over, Western Michigan and over. I think the over is the better of the 2. The Broncos haven't won back-to-back games all season. Strong home field edge, but win-loss. They're off a 49-10 win last week. But look at that. 49-10 at home, 38-16 at home, 31-15 at home, 57-10. 48. They're blowing teams out, and this is a good offense. I like the offensive line. I like Wasnick at QB. They have weapons on the outside, and they're in revenge off a really frustrating OT loss to Ball State last year, a game where they tied it up and over. We're supposed to tie it up in overtime, and then the kicker missed the extra point. So it's a loss they remember for Western Michigan, the overtime defeat. That being said, Ball State hung tough with them last year. They won 3 of their last 4. They've been a point spread machine this season. They've been really good. ATS, an undervalued commodity from day one. They've been winning turnover battles. The defense forcing multiple turnovers 6 times the last 7 ball games. That's something we like out of Ball State. So I'm not necessarily looking to bet against this Cardinals team in this point spread range. But from a total standpoint, look, they can score. Western Michigan can score. These are 2 pretty good offenses. I understand the defensive numbers for Ball State are solid. I also know these 2 teams played a shootout last year. So if I'm playing, I would absolutely look at the over in this one. That's the one that makes the most sense. Haven't pulled the trigger yet. It's not in my pocket. It's not for my clients. But I'm certainly leaning in that direction and may well get to it before kickoff tonight.
Exciting breakdown. And Arnoli knows on the other side of the total, liking the under 64, says the 2 teams combined 12-5 to the unders. There's our guy Tio Martinez in the house. We got Fat Fist ready to get to work as well. Great group. Brian Myers has a question, and the questions are rolling in. So I've copied and pasted that, Brian. I got you. The first question, though, came very early in the show, and it was from Ethan Payson. And I know this kind of takes us off, but now that we've handled the Tuesday card, Ethan Payson says, Jimmy, can you ask Teddy what he uses to track his picks?
What I use to track my picks? A spreadsheet. Excel. It's really simple. I keep one for every sport, and then I've got something that merges them so I can look daily and weekly and all of that. But it's just a very simple, every time I make a bet, I put it in my spreadsheet. And I do that manually. So that's the way I do it. I know there are higher tech ways to do it. I do it low tech way. Look, I'm an old guy. What am I going to say? But that's how I track my wagers.
I do the same thing.
Excellent question.
Yeah, very important. And I do the same thing. And this year in NHL, we're just waiting for the sample size to be a touch more. But I've broken it down for overs, unders, first periods, everything. And I've done the same in NBA because I'm good in those sports and I desperately want to be great. So I want to figure out exactly what I am excelling at. Because in my head, Teddy, because last year, I smashed NHL, but with a 42% winning rate. In my head, I'm like, man, I'm destroying puck lines, but that actually wasn't the case. Puck lines. So I've moved to the -1s this year because my number in my head, I thought I was destroying puck lines. But when you actually go over your numbers, you'll find that sometimes, and for me, I usually consider the glass half full and think I'm doing better than I'm actually doing. So it's very, very important to track everything that you do. It's a key. And I'm the same way. I put it in manually, so it takes hours and hours. Okay, Teddy, questions coming in right now, and a couple that I didn't get to yesterday. We're going to start with Brian Myers. Says, Jimmy, can you ask Teddy about Tennessee, Kentucky? Let me pull that up because it's too early in the week to not give you the rotation numbers. Tennessee, Kentucky, here we go. Do I have it popping off? Look at all these games. Please come to me soon. And I don't have it here. Teddy, do you know
towards the bottom? I know that.
It's at the very bottom.
179, 180.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. Have you broken down this spot, and are you interested in total or side?
It's not anything that jumped off the page at me on a Monday. But I'm not excited about either one of these 2 teams, to be perfectly honest. Of the 2, I guess I'm less excited about Kentucky at this stage of the campaign. But that doesn't make me say, all right, well, I'm going to get to the window with Tennessee here. Tennessee has won 3 of their last 4. All right. But they've been at 350 yards of offense or less, 3 times during that span. Last weekend's UAB was as much about turnovers as any other factor, which they're going to have a turnover edge against the Blazers. And Kentucky, they finally got off the schneid with the win over Missouri. And now at 4-4, it's a huge game for them at home. It's really a huge game for both these 2 teams. I like Kentucky's defense more than Tennessee's. I do, but they're so pedestrian on offense. It's not a game that jumped off the page at me earlier in the week, and not anything that I've done a whole lot of work on just yet.
Okay, the next question from Brian Myers has to do with rotation number 199-200, bottom of the card, San Jose State, Hawaii. It opened at 76.5, now at 77. And Brian Myers is asking what you think about taking the over, the very high over in Hawaii, San Jose State.
I sure as hell wouldn't take the under. Look at Hawaii's last 4 games: 59-37, 56-26, 45-31, 41-38. That's Hawaii football. They're going to gain 500. They're going to give up 500 every week. It's what they do. The offense is potent. The offense should be able to move the football against that San Jose defense. Defensively, Hawaii is, on a good day, they're mediocre. On a bad day, they get lit up by QBs like Love. I worry a little bit about how San Jose responds after kind of having Boise on the rope a little bit last week and kind of letting them get away, and then letting that game. It wasn't a sweat at the end if you had San Jose, but it certainly wasn't as easy as it looked early. But I worry about how they respond this time around. I do lean Hawaii. I do lean over in this one.
Leaning Hawaii and leaning over. Moses Saucedo gave us the over on yesterday's card. From yesterday, Teddy gave us Temple, Oregon State, Wake Forest, Illinois, and you were close to getting to the window with Minnesota and Iowa. Did you end up getting to the window with either Minnesota or Iowa?
I haven't bet either one yet. There's no reason to. We haven't seen any buyback. What I did was bet Illinois too soon, and I'm really mad at myself for that. Kicking myself in the really, when you're missing a key number like 14, that kind of annoys you. It kind of annoys me. So wasn't happy with that. But I have not pulled yet on. I expect to pull on Minnesota. We've already seen 7s. Maybe I'll see a 7.5. I'm not in a rush. And I do expect to pull the trigger on Iowa as well, but at 9.5. Again, there's no rush. The market's moving. The markets aren't crashing on the Hawkeyes yet. So I do expect to have both of those in my pocket before kickoff on Saturday. I have not bet either one yet.
And that leads us into Major Tom. So because he's saying, what do you think of Illinois at this number against Sparty? And clearly he likes it. He thinks that,
I'm baffled. I'm absolutely baffled by where this Sparty money. Maybe Michigan State's, maybe Illinois just can't move the football against this defense. That's possible. And Sparty will wear them down, and the Illini are fat and happy and all of that. But, I mean, I understand that Michigan State has played 3 really good defenses in a row. And now they got a little bit extra time. I still don't believe in that offense. And every time I watch Illinois, I see a competitive team. I don't see a bottom feeder. I see a competitive team. So at this price, I would only look at the Illini. But again, the money's pouring in on Sparty. The wise guys love Sparty this week. So let them love Sparty. I wouldn't hesitate to jumping in now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that it's a look that I'm going to jump on as well. Let's keep rolling along. We have a question that we didn't get to yesterday from our guy, Lucas Paff. And he says, App State, South Carolina. It says, App always seems to play up in the regional games. Can't find the rotation number right now, but App State, South Carolina. Do you have a feel for this spot, Teddy?
Well, it's 139-140 for App State, Carolina, and it wasn't a game that jumped at me right off the openers. I mean, I don't know how well App State bounces back off that loss to Georgia Southern last week. Where the team that is, what are they, 17-0 against everybody else and 0-2 against Georgia Southern. We're talking about a team that has had a monster point spread run over the last year and a half. We're talking about a team that hasn't turned the ball over 3 times in their last 4 ball games. So what I'm saying with all this is that a lot of things have gone right for App State. And I'm not convinced that they're being priced appropriately in the markets right here. So the question is, for me, it's a South Carolina or pass type of situation. I just need to know what the Gamecocks are interested in, because it's not like there's a huge sandwich spot, but they do have A&M coming up next. And I'm going to need to know if they're interested before I get involved with the Gamecocks. But South Carolina is the way I would look here. I would think that South Carolina is going to have some success against that pedestrian App State offense. I don't see the Mountaineers putting up points in bunches here.
Pinnacle has just moved Texas Tech, rotation number 123, 124 to -3. So bookmaker at 1.5, the other books at 2. We know they're going to follow suit if Pinnacle moves it. There we go. 5 Dimes just moved it to 2.5 as I spoke. Texas Tech opening at -1, now -3 on the road against West Virginia. Do you agree with this market move?
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't want West Virginia in a game that they have to win. It's not a Mountaineers team that I trust on either side of the football. The offense isn't working for West Virginia. The defense has been spotty at times. They're coming close. They can hang around, but they're not a team that I trust to win games. Red Raiders with extra time to repair is the only way I could look.
Another market move that we've seen, rotation number 145, 146, is Purdue opening as a 2-point favorite, and now Northwestern is a 1 or 1.5 point favorite. What do you think of the market move there?
I mean, it's a disgusting game, but we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I'm like, I don't know how Purdue can be laying. So I guess I agree with the market move, but does that make me excited about taking Northwestern? No. I mean, they melted down last week, and they melted down on field, off field, a one-win team right now. It's an easy pass for me. I don't want either one of those teams.
Don't want to back either one of those teams, and that makes a ton of sense. Stanford, 3.5 point favorites. We just saw Bet Online move it to 3. So 3.5 at all the other books, but Stanford is taking off that hook and are 3-point favorites at Colorado. This total has not moved off of 54.5. What do you think of the Cardinal going into Colorado?
Well, you have the Colorado's defense giving up 30 points in every game this season. Pretty close. I think it might be every game. And Stanford can't get to 30, So it's pick your poison. I'd rather have the Cardinal. I don't want any part of Colorado. All right. So it's Stanford or pass. I mean, a priori. And Stanford with extra time to repair. Colorado's beat down, and we saw it last week. And the defense actually fought in that game against UCLA. But as we get into November, it's a disappointing team with a disappointing season. They don't have a defense. I only want Stanford in this one. That's the only way I would look.
Okay, there we have it. And we'll be doing a lot more of this college football card throughout the week. What an exciting time to be a handicapper right now. Teddy covers. So we are going to find out more about Minnesota and Iowa to Teddy's card, but it's sitting with Temple, Oregon State, Wake Forest, and Illinois. And in NBA, we have 2 looks from Teddy as well. He's with me on the Magic. Did you take the Magic on the money line or the points?
I took plus the points.
You took plus the points, okay. And then we are heads up in – oh, sorry, that's the November 4th card. We are heads up in the Charlotte spot. I'm on Charlotte's money line, and Teddy is backing the Pacers. Teddy, what a treat, and what a fun time of year, and it's just so exciting. So we have NCAA football, NCAA basketball. Check us on the Late Show, because Maxwell Smart will be breaking down this entire card. Teddy covers. What a treat. Follow this man on Twitter, Teddy_covers, and have a great Tuesday. Teddy, thanks for joining us and sharing all your hard work.
Hey, thank you, Jimmy. I always have a good time on it. It's the low baggers, and the feeling on this show is second to none. I'll tell you that flat out. So I really appreciate you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity, and we'll see y'all tomorrow. And for everything that we want to work, either you win or I win this Charlotte, Indiana stuff. None of this Pacers by a point or 2 and we both lose. That's really going to piss me off if we're talking about this tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's the worst case scenario by far. Much love to you, Teddy. Have a great day, my friend.